Hi, this is Mr. Weston. Today we're doing a tutorial video on dividing decimals. This is from mathdrills.com. Make sure to check out the link in the description below. MathDrills has tons of great resources and worksheets available. Now, before we jump into this problem, I'm going to talk about how we set this up. So I'm going to use what's called the box method. I'll show you that later, but we have decimals here in two places. We have it underneath this divide sign and outside of it. Okay, so the dividend, the one inside is called the dividend, and this is the divisor on the outside, and the answer you get is called the quotient. That's just terminology in case you're wondering. I'm not going to refer to it too much, but I just wanted you to know. But anyway, the main deal is we don't like it when there's a decimal in our divisor, so we want to get rid of it. I want to talk about how we can get rid of it in a pretty understandable way. So if we want to get rid of that decimal, we can't just go, oh, let's just get rid of it. That doesn't work like that, okay? Math has a lot of rules, and you have to follow those rules. So you can't just eliminate or change a number based on what you want. So one of the things we're going to do is if I were to write this as a fraction, so 0.56 divided by 0.2, you can write it as a fraction, 0.56 divided by 0.2. Now, we generally don't like decimals in our fractions, so what we can do is we can create an equivalent fraction. So with an equivalent fraction, we can multiply the top and bottom by the same thing, and it changes how the fraction looks, but it doesn't change the value of that fraction. So if you're going to multiply 0.56 times 100, really what you're doing there is you move the decimal place over 2 times. That's what happens when you multiply by 100. So really, if we multiply this by 100, we'd get the number 56. Same thing with the bottom. If we were to multiply this by 100, move the decimal place over twice. That's what happens when you multiply by 100, and we'd get 20. So 56 divided by 20 would be the same thing as 0.56 divided by 0.2. 56 divided by 20 looks a little bit easier, I think. So it's just another way to consider. That's why we can change the decimals around, and we have to actually. In order to make it an easier problem for us, we need to do some rearrangement. So with all of these problems, I think they're all with the same to the tenths. So these divisors all have tenths in them, and that's it. We want to make sure it's a whole number. So whenever you're dividing, this is a rule for any decimal division, is we want to make sure the divisor is a whole number. That's our goal. So we want that to be a whole number. So I'm going to go ahead and show that if I move this over 1, just like we did here, in order to create an equivalent fraction, we need to move this over 1 also. Okay, and that also means that, for example, if we had something like this, 0.2, and let's say this is 71, okay, technically there's an implied decimal right there. So if we were to move this over 1, we'd move this over 1, and this would become 710. So that's just an FYI in case you have a different problem that looks a little different than this. Okay, make sure you move over to decimal and fill in any zeros if you need to. So now we have a new problem. Instead of 0.56 divided by 0.2, we have 5.6 divided by 2. And part of the process here, if we're using the standard algorithm, I'm going to show that real quick and then the box method. What we do is we'd see how many times does 2 go into 5, and it goes in twice, and that's 4. We subtract, and we get 1, okay? And then we have to drop down the next number. I've shown other videos, even on Math Drills worksheets about this, so if you need any additional tips or tricks, make sure to search long division. I'll try to link something in the description below also. So I have 6 there, I drop down, and now I have 6 and 8. Now before I put it down, I need to carry this decimal up. Anytime you have a decimal right here and no decimal on the outside, just like I said, whole numbers right there, we can just plop that decimal right there, and then we proceed. So I'm going purple next. 2 goes into 16 8 times. So our answer is going to be 2.8. Okay. Now let's say I'm using the box method. You're not a fan of their standard algorithm. Remainder 0, by the way. If you're not a fan of the standard algorithm, I wanted to show you what the box method looks like. I really like the box method, and my students generally prefer it. So I'm going to show that to everyone in case you're not familiar. Let me just scoot this over. Okay, so if I'm using the box method, let me first draw my box. It's really nice with Notability, by the way. I should snap into place if I do this. There it goes. Okay, so I have my box, and then I need to have 2 columns here. This is a little big, but it will work. Usually you have the columns a little bit smaller. No big deal. I wonder if whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, now I'm going to put my numbers in here. So I have 5 here. I can put my decimal right there. Okay, and then I have 6. Again, I changed this problem to 5.6 divided by 2. I changed the problem. So my 2 is on the outside, and I have 5.6 on the inside. I just put the decimal up because essentially I'm going to move that decimal up just like I described earlier. Now, with the box method, you do the same process. So I go, how many times does 2 go into 5? It goes in twice, and that number is 4, and I subtract, just like I did before, and I have 1 as my remainder. Actually, I need to move this number over. Okay, now what I do with this remainder here is I just move it up to the next number like this. So this becomes 16. So this is kind of like what's left over. These boxes down here are the leftover boxes. And then what you have to do is, one of my students came up with this actually, is you take the number to the neighbor's house. Okay, so if you have some leftovers, you want to be nice, you take them over to the neighbor's house. So instead of 6, it becomes 16. And that's what happened over here, by the way, is it became 16. So now I repeat the process. 2 goes into 16. This time it's 8, and that number is 16. 2 times that 8 equals 16, and I have 0. And this last box here, let me highlight it actually. This last box is always going to be your remainder. Okay, so if you're doing normal long division, it's going to be remainder 0 or R0 in this case. We'll treat that a little bit differently with decimals. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's the process, okay? So let me start right from the beginning. In this case, I need to change this to whole. There we go. So in this case, we have 0.2, and we don't like that. We want to change it to just normal 2. So I'm going to move everything over. So now my new problem, I'm going to make my box here too big. Let me undo this. You can make it even small, pretty small. Okay, so there's my box. I'm going to divide it into 2. Actually, no, I messed up already. I need 3 columns this time because I have 3 digits. So I need a little bit wider of a box. It's not snapping into place. This is definitely user error. Okay, one of these times I'll get it. There you go. Finally. I was about to give up. Okay, so I need 3 columns for this because I have 1, 6, and 4. My dividend has 3 digits, so therefore I need 3 columns. So I'm going to go ahead and make my columns. Okay, and then I'm going to put 2 here because I changed this number to 2. And then I'm going to put 1, 6, my decimals here, and then 4. So this is 16.4. I'm going to move my decimal up right away. And now I'm going to start. This is a great problem, actually, because it goes over a lot of misconceptions. So number 1, 2 goes into 1. It does not go in at all. So I'm going to put a 0 here. So I'm going to put minus 0 because 2 times 0 gives me 0, and then I get a 1. A lot of students will put a 0 here. They're just kind of like getting in the habit of zeros, and then they'll be like, oh, then I carry the 0, and it doesn't change anything. Well, it's a 1 here. So like I said earlier, once we have a leftover, we're going to be a nice neighbor and take it to the neighbor's house. So I'm going to move a 1 up here, and now I have 2 goes into 16. How many times? And that's 8. So that's subtracting 16 because 2 times 8 gives you 16, and we have 0 as our remainder. Now I'm going to carry this over to the neighbor's house, and I have 4 there, so 2 goes into 4 2 times, and that number is 4, and we're going to have no remainder again. So the answer here is 8.2. So 8.2 is our answer. Okay, so 8.2 would be the answer for that one. So I hope this video is helpful. If you want me to do more problems on this worksheet, I can absolutely do that. Maybe I can do maybe one more bonus one real fast. Like if we're going to use the standard algorithm, what I would do is I would just move this over 1, okay, put the decimal right there. 3 doesn't go into 1, but 3 goes into 16 5 times, and that's 15. Remainder 1. Then I have 3 goes into 15 3 times. Nope, that's wrong again. That's 5 times. And then that would be also 15, remainder 0. So 5.5 would be my answer. And that's how you do it with decimals. You move it over 1, pop it up. Okay, just like before. So we move this one over and then popped it up. Okay, so it's real simple, standard algorithm or the box method. Both are great. Again, leave a comment if you need additional help. Check out some of my other videos on long division. I look forward to seeing you next time right here on West Explains Best.